What's going on, everybody? You've got the card board coach here with your boy, Coach Co. And team, today we've got a very special guest on the podcast here today. We've got Steve Morse, aka Mr. Minty. How you doing today, man?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. We've tried to hammer this one out a few times. The first time I actually got to speak to you was at the expo, and I was very happy that you were there.
I
And
was, I was,
yeah, I got to share the stage with you a few times, and that was awesome. And I got to know you a little bit more, and I want the listeners to get to know you a little bit more, and I want to get to know you even more than that. So this is gonna be a fun one for me. Yeah, man, thanks for coming.
dude. Thanks for having me. It took a couple times. Kids sick and all, but we finally made it. We persevered.
Holiday season's tough too, though. You know.
Sure is. Sure
Yeah,
is.
things get they're all over the place. So talk to me a little bit about Mr. Minty. First of all, congratulations on a successful business.
Thank you.
And congratulations on, I mean, essentially creating something that didn't exist before, right? Like you saw an opportunity in the market. A lot of people were submitting cards. People weren't really submitting cards at the volumes that they were back in 2020 and 2021 and 2022 and prior to that. And so, I guess the market hadn't really needed use for something like you have. But now it is very apparent that a lot of people need someone to either review their cards or clean their cards or make sure that they're in the best shape possible, especially given the fact that the values fluctuate dramatically depending on the grades. So talk to me a little bit about that process. Like talk to me about uh just the inception of Mr. Minty and how that came about.
Totally. Well, it started like 10 years ago. Um, I was dating my wife. She worked weekends, so I spent all my weekends raiding, garage sales and flea markets, buying all these cards and then submitting them for grading. So I learned, the PSA scales and the Beckett scales just through submitting hundreds and hundreds and reviewing thousands and thousands of cards. Um, Fast forward close to the pandemic, I was submitting cards for a lot of friends. I'm examining their cards and cleaning them up, and I kept on seeing as the hobby got more and more popular. I kept on seeing my card was mint, and PSA said it's a six. And all this like negative content on the web was really growing, and I realized that there was just a big gap in card education, and knowing condition, and looking at cards, and I have a background in product development, footwear and backpacks and sports stuff, and I found an opportunity to make products for collectibles.
That is awesome. I had no idea that it went back that far. I mean, I guess as I speak to more and more people on this show, I kind of get to know the fact that or one thing remains true is that like the people who were in this market or continue to be a part of this market and you put your time in, eventually it kind of just works itself out. And I don't even know how the hell that happens, but it just always seems to, and it's like not something you ever thought that you'd really be doing, but here we are, and like I'm like very passionate about it, at least in your case, and I'm happy that you've kind of found exactly what it is that you're meant to do. I mean, you show up at all the shows with an apron. You've really like embraced the role. Like the black gloves, like I love that.
Thank you. I a friend of mine, when you have a brand and you're going on, you go through ups and downs. And I was going through a down, and a friend of mine said, "Own your minty." And it just resonated with me. And it's my screensaver, and everything that I do from there on forward, doing the apron, the gloves, it's all about, owning who you are and what you're doing and what you're standing for, and being really authentic.
I love that. It reminds me a lot of like a chemist in the lab, like it's it's like the opposite colors of a chemist, but it's the same concept where you're like, I'm cooking up a proper grade over here.
A lot of people would call me like Mr. Clean because of my bald head. So I
That's
gotta get with
I get crazy shit too, so don't worry.
It was, and actually, this bald head's pandemic based too. I used to have a nice quaff, if you will,
Yeah?
but
Well, you
it
lost it
was
during
like,
the pandemic?
dude, about a weekend, I was just like, I'm not gonna see anybody for a while, and I never went back.
Never came back, eh? I was kind of on the same page. I was like, it's not where it used to be. I was like, we're gonna call it quits. And it
Yeah.
just never came back. That's awesome. Talk to me a little bit about your collecting journey. So you mentioned briefly, there's garage sales and you're submitting cards in the early 2010s. What kind of stuff were you submitting?
Yeah.
What kind of stuff were you looking for at garage sales?
Yeah, so I was all about buying back my childhood, right? I grew up on the East Coast in Washington D.C., and I moved out to California. Um, I'd been like picking up cards along the way. When I was in San Diego, early 2000s, found a card shop. Started ripping 2001 tops, and got like LT and Drew Brees and Michael Vick, and I was stoked. Bought some Brady's a couple years later, some LeBrons in '03. Um, but it was all about like chasing down that Michael Jordan rookie, and like just finding the gems. It's always been about the hunt. And I named my company off of a guy, Al Rosen, Mr. Mint, who's known for the Mickey Mantle find, the
Yeah.
find. And for me, like just reading about that as a kid, um, it's always just been about the hunt. And so I would do these garage sales, and I would, come back with a truck full of cards, for $300, something ridiculous, and go through them all night long. And I was able to get all the cards I ever wanted, from my childhood. And it was amazing. It was really cool.
What is the craziest card you found in one of those?
Michael Jordan, Ricky.
Yeah? Really?
Yeah.
In like a garage sale box or what?
Mm-hmm.
Authentic. You sent it in, it came back authentic everything.
Seven.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and for me, like
Wow.
that was like the grail, right? And listen, I wasn't gonna buy a 10. Like I couldn't afford that. Like
I
even
mean,
back
there
then,
even
like
now at the down
20.
market is like $200,000. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like that's pretty hefty.
totally. But I was happy to get, the Jerry Rice rookies, the Magic Bird rookies, Don Mattingly. I'm a huge fan of collect all things Don Mattingly's. And yeah, so like almost everybody that I ever wanted, like I was able to find dirt cheap at garage sales. I was able to like build up my collection and literally cross off every single card I ever wanted off my list.
And not to mention, man, when you were going hard, that was like the beauty days of collecting. Like there was like it just came off the 90s where like not a lot of people were in fact people were like kind of out on cards. And like
Ooh,
and you're jumping in on Brady, you're jumping in on Breeze, you're jumping in on LeBron, like ground floor. That talk to me about the LeBron hunt. That must have been fun. Like
it was
was LeBron had a lot of hype, right? But I mean, obviously not as much hype as like some of the guys these days, like Zion and Wemby. So talk to me about like, did you wait to buy it to get a LeBron rookie? Do you like talk to me about that process?
I was at a shop. It was like a coin card shop, and I saw he had one out. And it was the Topps base. And for me, like I love rookie cards where it's like a profile. They're holding the bat or they're
Yeah.
holding the jersey. And I was like, that
The white suit, right?
that went right to it. It was $40. Seemed like it was worth it to me. I didn't know the price, but like I believed in LeBron, and it gemmed, and it's kind of steamrolled from them.
Do you still have it?
No, I sold it a while ago.
I was gonna say, I
It, it,
was gonna
it paid
say,
for my honeymoon. I
yeah. I mean,
a lot of cards paid for my honeymoon.
I think that's an important thing to talk about as well. Where like, I mean, you're almost looked at with like a negative light if you sell, and like obviously, I mean, you've held this card for a while, but like sometimes you just use those cards to live life, and that's okay too. Like that's like you invested time and energy into acquiring this thing. You sent it in for grading. You held it for like 20 years. Like I'm taking this and I'm gonna treat my wife to something because it was a piece of cardboard.
100%. I have my top 10. And those just stay on the shelf. But everything else can move around, in flexibility,
And even the top 10, like, I mean, if you could upgrade one of those, do you know what I mean? Like, then all of a sudden one moves out, right?
Well,
Like,
I did have a top 10 card. I grew up in DC, so it was a 1979 Topps Doug Williams PSA 10 rookie. And Doug Williams is won the Super Bowl for the Redskins in '87. First black quarterback to start in a Super Bowl, win Super Bowl MVP. So it's a very important card for anybody from DC.
yeah.
And there's only like 17 of them, or at the time there was. So I sold mine, to help start my business. I was like, I got it for $200. I sold it for like 2,700. So it was like, oh, yeah, I got to do it, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it wasn't until this last Burbank show where I saw another one, and I just had to get it back into my collection.
Oh, you got it back.
I got it, not the same exact
No, no,
one,
I
but
know. I am not the same
not the
exact one. That'd be crazy. That would be nuts.
yeah,
You're looking at old photos, you're like, this is the same shirt, everything.
same cert, it'd be insane. But
Can I ask you, did you buy it back for less?
no, well,
I
no.
I don't know. I'm not sure, right? Like,
The funny thing was, it was in the booth in front of me at the Burbank show,
oh, it's meant to be, man. You had to pick it up.
but I didn't see it there. A guy got it earlier in the show at the opposite, and then the card moved to the opposite end of the show, and I just happened to see it out of the corner of my eye, walking the show, and I paid over the last comp for it, but the fact that the card was that guy got the card from right in front of me just blew my mind. Like, I
That's
was like,
crazy.
yeah, you know,
That is wild. I mean, also, there's something to be said about buying over comps. I mean, I've talked about this a bunch of times. Like, comps are only relevant if you can find that card. Like, you know what I mean? Like, a comp doesn't mean shit if you haven't seen one in 3 4 years, right? Like,
so
if
I
one doesn't surface, you pay what you pay for it.
that in East Coast, West Coast, middle of the country, I have not seen one. So, and there was one that went on PWCC, so I paid a little bit more over PWCC. So, how about you? What's on your list?
My my collecting list, like, what do
Yeah,
I?
or
It's
your
funny.
your your top shelf?
It's funny you mentioned this. Like, I actually started thinking about this today, which is like weird. I was sitting and I was like, the market's down a little bit. Like, this is a good opportunity to grab stuff like I've always
Yeah.
wanted, right? And I really started to sit and like think about, what that, like, curating what that would look like. I think it would be, I definitely get like a 1958 Pele, which is like a
Oh,
soccer sticker. Yeah. Yeah. I would get a high grade Uzebu. So probably the blue back though, or I mean, these are all things I like. You probably don't know, but that's fine. Like, yeah, I'm big on stickers, huge on stickers. Most of my PC is soccer stickers or like 90, like mid 90s refractors or uh like notable players from my past. Um, yeah, and then for me, like those Grail cards, I care way more about completing sets. So like I said, there's like probably I would say 4 or 5. Like a lot of people are like, oh, Mickey Mantle. I'm like, would I like a Mickey Mantle for sure? But like it's not something I've always been like, I really want a Mantle rookie, right? Like, oh, this is something that would define my life. Like I would much prefer to get like a Ronaldo Mega Cracks PSA 10 than I would a Mickey Mantle rookie, right? And like,
feel the same way.
yeah.
It's like it's. I know the importance, but I've never thought of myself of owning one. So it's not. It seemed it seems out of reach, so I don't really care.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I just don't have like a strong attachment to that card, right? I yeah, I don't know. I think like a black tops chrome or black refractor tops chrome LeBron would be like I think a pretty big card for me. Or the gold tops chrome. I mean, I think it would be massive. I mean, both of those are way outside my budget, but both of those would I think mean more to me than a Mickey Mantle would. Just because like I grew up watching LeBron and do like I mean the guy has been an absolute animal.
Yeah,
I mean, he just won the in tournament last year or last yesterday, actually, as we're
yeah,
recording this. Yeah, man. So it's funny we talking about like, what are some of the like the mantle, not Mickey Mantle, but like the mantelpiece cards, right? Talk to me a little bit about how your collecting has kind of like shifted as you started to essentially get more involved in like the business aspect. Like, do you find yourself collecting less? Do you find yourself buying less? Like, how does that work?
yeah. It's a great question. I really established my top 10, which was, I recommend all collectors do that. Like, so it gives you focus when collecting. So it's like, what you're hunting for, because it's really easy to lose focus. It's like, oh, well, this is my most expensive card. This is my best hit. So like, like, and get attached to those versus like
Yeah,
what or who you're really passionate about. From the business side, I had to, I really had to, you know, put a fine line down. I couldn't collect and run a business at the same time.
yeah.
So I chose the business. When I see something I like at a card show, I'll buy it. But um, like I went to the University of Georgia, so when the Bowman U product came out, I make sure I got gold Stetson Bennett. Yeah, he was the Georgia quarterback. You know, but yeah, it's a lot less collecting when you're running a business for sure.
I believe it. I also love the fact that I mean, you're collecting college cards. Like there's such like
Uh,
a negative connotation towards college cards because they're not in their pro uniforms. And I mean, I wondered why there's such a diehard like attachment to college teams, especially when we're talking about football and basketball. And yet somehow that hasn't translated like nearly at all in the hobby. In fact, like college stuff is no one really, I mean, not saying nobody, but the vast majority of people, they don't care at all for college stuff. That stuff sits on the shelves, except for, I guess, right before the player gets pro cards, right? But like, there's not a lot of people collecting for the sake of like having that college uniform stuff.
I,
And so I
I
think it's,
I personally love it.
that's
Like
what I mean.
it's
I love
really
that.
it's you definitely feel like the oddball out, for sure. Um, yeah, like myself and do you know Jeff Wilson? So Jeff, we both went to SEC schools. He went to Florida. I went to Georgia. There's a big football rivalry there, and we both secretly love college cards. Like there's like no better way to like cheer on your school than to like have these sick cards.
Yeah.
And they don't have the values the pro unis, but
But like it's
I
kind of
love them.
fun that way though, right? Because like you can pretty much buy whatever the hell you want, right? Like
Yeah,
like Ryan Card Collector too is like that too. He has a massive Ohio State PC, and I mean you can get one of ones, you can get golds, you can get like pretty much whatever you want, like within like reasonable prices for cards, though. You know what I mean?
yeah. Like I mean, you've heard of Sam Howell. He's one of
Yeah,
the
of course.
the higher pumped quarterbacks in the NFL right now. So I
Yeah,
have um,
it's
his
super.
tractor from Bowman U. And I was able to get it really cheap 2 years ago when it came out because no one cared about that he was in his college uniform. But
That's pretty
um,
damn cool.
Carolina, yeah, it's a one of one superfractor, and it's his first. So it's his Bowman first. So
Yeah.
if you're a baseball guy, Bowman first is everything, and hopefully Fanatics kind of. I think Fanatics is going to do a good job training collectors to use Bowman and Bowman first as like pre-rookie cards.
I think so, eh?
I think so. I think so. I think they're going to put a lot. They're going to put enough hype behind it that really train that football and basketball collector to think of Bowman the same way they do as baseball.
I mean, they're thinking long term for sure here, right? Like they're working hard at getting kids in the space. I know that people are talking about like prices being unobtainable for kids. Um, I mean, how do you feel about that? Like you have young ones, right? One, two,
Yeah, I,
seven?
She's 3. She's
There you
3.
go.
I'm an 11-year-old. Yeah, you know, card prices are out of reach for young kids, but they make good products um, for starting out collectors. And I think Target and Walmart, places like that are great places for kids to get introduced to cards. I remember getting my first cards at Toys R Us versus
Yeah.
hobby shop.
Yeah.
Um, I think they got to develop a couple more products and set tiers, evenly distribute tiers better. I think there was a time where there was a lot of good product at the retail level, and it just created a lot of confusion about what you could get, at retail versus hobby, and like
Yeah.
the same product in both created confusion. So I think they'll merchandise through that. But yeah, I think Fanatics is going to do a wonderful job.
Oh, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. I think not only for cardboard. I think they're when they say 10x the hobby, I really think they're going to bring sports and collectibles and cardboard and um, and memorabilia and hip hop and music and athletes and all that stuff and just mend it into one. And I think it's going to be really cool.
I mean, I think we're already seeing a lot of that, right? Like I mean, even the fact that Tom Brady's got his own now Bowman baseball card. I mean, that in large part
Cool
has to
is
do
that?
with what?
Scale of 1 to 10. How cool is that?
I mean, it's wild, right? It's crazy. It's like it's 8 or 9 or 10. I mean, people are so like they're very upset about this. They're like, "Oh, it's ridiculous. He didn't have a card
What? I
before.
think it's the
He
coolest
doesn't
thing.
have a card now." I mean, there's also a $500,000 bounty on it
Mhm.
on the gold. I also think it's just really cool that he inscribed all the jersey numbered ones. So like, obviously, someone understands that jersey numbers mean something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like so like someone has coached him to like it'd be like, hey, listen, these jersey numbered cards are already more desirable. So like let's make them even more desirable by inscribing the jersey numbered cards. And so at each tier, like that I saw, at least with the I think it's orange and the gold, the jersey numbered cards are inscribed. So I think that is ridiculously cool. I like I said, I don't know if that partnership would ever happen if it wasn't for his relationship with Michael Rubin. And
yeah,
we've seen Michael Rubin tour him around, to Gillette Stadium for card events, and he's been on Fanatics Live, and he was on a break with he was on a video call with Leighton while he was on Fanatics Live. Like, I just don't know if we've ever seen athletes in this space so close, like so close, and it's much closer than they'd ever be on TV, and I think that's really fucking cool.
it's
I think
really cool.
I think it's really fucking cool that your hobby and my hobby has the ability to put someone like within arm's reach. Not only someone, but someone you idolize either growing up or currently, watching on TV and having all these accolades and contributing to all these important moments in yours and so many other people's lives through sports. The reason why we love collecting, right?
Yep.
And like, there's just never been closer. And I don't know
Make,
how you
make
can't
no
get
mistake.
excited about something like that.
Make no mistake about it. I love collecting because I love sports, and I'm not an athlete, so I wasn't going to be on the court. But the closest way I can get there is by holding the card while I watch TV.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
Because
and now you have events where like those athletes are walking around, and whereas before a lot of them was like it was like auto like you'd go to autograph signings, right? And like they're there, but they're kind of there for business. I mean, now a lot of the time they're there just to shoot the shit. And like at least from what we've seen so far, they're just kind of walking around, they're handing out packs, they're engaging. Like it's kind of surreal.
it's really cool, and like I can really envision something like Tops Now VR, where you're at a card show, put on a headset, and takes you into like one of like 20 like events, like where you can relive like a no hitter or a game winning shot or something like that. Like there's so many cool things that we can do. And I was just off the phone with Min from Graded Guard, and just about how Fanatics and how other brands have emerged and come into the space. The fruit was so low hanging, It was just dudes collecting cardboard, prior. And now we can have athletes and music and memorabilia and all these cool things together in one. It's going to be awesome.
How do you feel about how do you, let's say you were having a conversation with a true purist who is just like so against all of the stuff that's happening right now. Like, what would you say to someone like
Get off my lawn, dude.
that?
Yeah, yeah, like I, it's,
Oh fuck.
I mean, like honestly, like I've had those conversations with people, and then I just point to the old guy that isn't doing anything at the card show, that's standing there, who hasn't sold anything, who won't budge on his prices, who hasn't moved a card, and he's just been standing there miserable all weekend long. And like, you got to move with the ebbs and flows of the hobby, and this is really exciting. And it's there's money coming into the hobby. There's businesses that have emerged, that have evolved. There's just so many exciting things. Like, we're getting closer and closer and closer to what we love, which is actually the sport. And it's and the cards are an offset of that, and it's really really exciting. But collectors collect any way they want.
I
It,
agree.
and that's there's certain like podcasts that say, you have to collect this way, and like, you can only collect these type of cards. No, collectors can collect any way they want. They can do whatever they want, and if they want to go to these mega events, they can. If they want to stay in their basement, they can too.
I agree. Let's talk about some of the discrepancies with grading. So, I mean, this is like you and I were talking about this not too long ago. The Anthony Volpe, the one that came out of the Topps lids uh
Did you see it?
anniversary. Yeah, I saw the crease. You think that crease warrants a 2 though?
So from the
So
so
again, I
granted,
mean, we're
I can only
we're
see
working off
three
of
millimeters.
just scans, right? So like
Yeah.
it was not much to go off of.
Granted, I can only see 2 millimeters of the crease between the edge of the crease and your forehead.
Of
So
course. My
see the
fault.
whole card. But no, based off that alone, no. But if it's about a 2.5 inches, yeah, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. And there were some indents that I pointed out to you as well.
Yeah.
So there's something funky going on.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it's unreasonable because like those packs were, as I mentioned, they were, and for those of you who don't know, we're talking about the Lids was running a promotion with these 75th anniversary hats or something of that nature, where each one had a patch from an old school baseball pack. And wherever you were in the country, whether you were in Tampa Bay, whether you were in Cleveland, you actually had the ability to buy that team's retro fit. And with that, it came with a pack of cards. It came like with a silver pack, essentially, 3 cards, and they were handled by Lids employees. They were actually, I saw that they came out of like a bag, so it's not like these things were properly stored, like they literally came out of like a sack, right? So it's not like these things were properly stored. I did not expect them to come out like gem. I was just very surprised that a packed fresh card came back at 2, and especially one that was like numbered to 50. It's the prominent rookie in that chase. Like, I was like, what the hell is this? Um,
The
but I mean,
two has a little character though.
it's a pop one, right? So, but yeah, it's interesting. I do okay, actually. Let's hear. Do you think that? So, when was the last time you submit things? Was it weekly, monthly? Like,
Yeah, I'm about at PSA once a week, every other week.
do you do walkthroughs? Like, you walk
Yeah,
through?
I'm blessed to live 10 minutes away from PSA.
Yeah.
So
So, do you think that the grading has changed in the last 6 months?
no,
Yeah,
no,
you're allowed to say no.
no, I don't think so. I think Beckett's gotten tougher.
Yeah.
I
And this is like firsthand. This is firsthand
Yeah.
experience. I mean, you literally
So,
clean
so
cards to submit, right? So
yeah. So like PSA's best graders are on like prior to 90s products. So, you know, their best graders are on vintage. They're like best, most knowledgeable stuff. You know, really high end graders are doing everything 70s, 80s, 90s, things like that. And the bulk products are, you know, are handled by the new guys. So
New
most of them
people.
are
Yeah, of
handled by the newbies. You know, unless it's like a $10,000 submission, then
course.
they're, you know, upper echelon guy. But like everybody knew that they brought on, they had to get them in on the, you know, the bulk, you know, new
Of
stuff that
course.
came.
They got to
So
put them
there's going
somewhere.
to
They
be,
got to put them somewhere.
yeah, and it's going to be on the new product because, you know, the new product's not worth as much.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think they're allowed with that, you know, training allows for a lot more, you know, volatility in their grading, and I think for 90 stuff, it's a bit they're a bit more generous. I think they're a lot more. They put a lot more scrutiny into 90s, 80s, and prior comes.
It's interesting. But you said Beckett's getting tougher.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
At the walkthroughs at the show, people were I saw more black labels. People getting more black labels than I've ever seen in
So
my
that
life.
Canada show was nice. I am counting the days of that Canada show. There is a Michael Jordan rookie that I was looking to buy. The guy had a whole set, and he's like Steve, I just gotta be honest with you. There's a couple indents in it. You know, it's most likely a 4, and I looked at him like I completely agree with you. And we were like working on a price. Another kid came in, just bought it, graded it, got a 7. And like,
Really?
we're like two like guys that know what
Yeah, 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 yeah.
mind blown that this card got a 7. And you know, they gave out some nice grades in Canada. So
I was
yeah,
like,
to
dope,
go.
bro. I saw 3 black labels. I was like, I've never seen 3 black
Right?
labels. I don't think I've ever seen 3 black labels in a show. Never
Was it
mind.
was it Pokemon or like um Weiss or
I
like
saw
anime
one was a
like sports?
two of them were definitely TCG. One of them was a football card.
Okay, wow, it's
Yeah,
impressive. Yeah.
I trust
Yeah,
me.
yeah, I see a lot more with Pokemon and White Shorts than anything else.
Yeah, me
Getting
too. Me
I've
too.
never got a black label.
What?
Never. I've never gotten a black
Oh
label.
yeah, I mean, well, that's how many cards do you think you've submitted to Beckett? Like if you had the ballpark,
Less than PSA, but tons because I'm at Dallas, 3-4 times a year for that show. So
they do submissions to Beckett, or
oh
they have
yeah,
on site.
so Beckett's there. So Beckett's
On
basically,
site?
and that's one of the beauties of that Dallas card show is you're right in Beckett's backyard. So they're doing on-site grading, on-site RCR. Want to give a shout out to my friend Stuck on Pucks because we brought a lot of his this amazing Jack Hughes collection. So we brought so many like exquisite and cup Jack Hughes rookie patch autos there, and got 9s on most of them. So they were definitely highlights
What?
of that
What
Canada
is
show.
what does the price go for? Like,
Yeah, those cards are like,
no, I'm saying on like the
oh,
on-site
so
grading.
RCRs are $25. So it comes back in a top loader
Yeah,
uh, with like a little silver
but
sticker on it.
do they encapsulate on
Great.
site too?
They do. So they'll take it back to Beckett and you'll get it back like the next day. So that's about $150.
That's not bad
If
though.
it's not bad. So and then for somebody like me, I'll come in Thursday, Friday, and help a lot of collectors with their cards, and they can get 1 or 2 shots of getting the grade. So we can get a grade, an RCR, we can get it encapsulated. If they're unhappy with the grade, we can crack it out and send it back again.
Wow, that's not too shabby. That's a decent
Not
setup.
too- Well, yeah, because like in I'm here to help collectors in real time.
Yeah,
Whether you're a collector or investor,
which makes sense
uh,
why you would go to the Dallas show, right? Like,
yeah,
what other shows do
yeah,
you target specifically? Like, 'cause you're like, there's gonna be a lot of people there submitting.
yeah, the ones that have on-site grading, and that's where I can provide the most value for collectors, either advising them to grade, at the show,
Yeah.
or or hold off till after the show, or not to grade the card at all, after evaluation and cleaning and prepping. It's um, there so many collectors are there to make money in real time, and so my service helps with that. Main collectors, aren't there to make money, and it's like, hey, send it in, don't spend the $150 upcharge, send it in regular, if you're not into moving the card.
Yeah. It's interesting. So, I mean, first of all, you wouldn't have even come to Toronto. I would never have seen you in person if there was no on-site grading.
Most likely. Yeah,
Damn. All right. Well, see, everything happening for a reason then.
absolutely, absolutely. And I can't wait to go back to that Toronto show, man.
Why? Why can't you wait to come back?
Like that show just got me right here, right? So for me, I love seeing a mix of raw and slabs cards. You come to LA, it's all rows and rows and rows and rows of slab cards. Atlanta, a little more raw than slabs. And Toronto had this great mix. Everybody was super nice. I was able to find like some guy had vintage rack packs. I
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah,
"You
yeah,
have a
yeah.
dollar one?" He was like, "Yeah, it's $60." Like, sounds great. I would never have been able to find something like that, at a show in LA. Just there's just so many just amazing kind of just it kind of felt like a garage sale a little bit. There's just so many collectors with lots and lots of interesting, cool cards
I
and
love that.
collectors.
I'm glad. I'm glad you had fun. I mean, so far everyone I've spoken to that came down, and they don't have to, you don't have to be nice to me. I mean, you can trash the show all you want, but like
I loved it.
everyone said that they've had fun, and I mean, hopefully that means that more people are going to travel. I guess we're up here, and not be so afraid of the cold, because we do put on a really good show, and it continues to grow and get better and better, especially with people like you showing up. Talk to me a little bit about that. We mentioned the opportunity to try for a grade multiple times. How often are you like cracking cards out? Is that something that like people ask you to do? If so, are you comfortable doing that?
Oh yeah,
And
it's a service I
yeah,
provide.
okay,
It's a
all right,
service that I gladly provide, whether collectors mail cards into me or if I'm at a show. Again, I'm here to help collectors in real time. So whether if somebody wants to, you know, crack out a personal card from a Beckett and cross try it with PSA, or vice versa, or if an investor is looking to buy a card, like, hey, Mr. Minty, you know, I got I'm about to buy this 8. He said you could take a look at it and advise me if it's worth cracking out, and so I'm happy, to help with that too. Everything helps, the cycle of the hobby keep on going.
yeah. Do you think that we could come up with a better solution for deactivating certs? Either that, or we just can't put that much stock into population reports. Do you know what I mean?
I
I
don't
don't know
think
what
we
the solution is. That's why I'm
I
asking. I have no
I
idea.
I, I get it on a purist level. Again, the collector's allowed to do what they want to
Of
do.
course. I mean, of course.
I think that leads me down another path of it. I was talking to the great curator in Merlin about this. It's like just because it's slabbed up doesn't mean it's the final grade, right?
Yeah.
Like, you can crack it out. You can resubmit it. It could get a different grade. It can go up. It could go down. You can like many collectors submit many times till they get the number they want.
Yeah. And I think it's just hard for people to comprehend that because they're like, it should just be like whatever number it gets, right? And because
Yeah.
grading is so subjective,
Oh
it's
my
like,
God, it's 11. My world has come to the end. I have to get rid of this card now. Like, that
hey, listen, I've recently fallen in love with mags, and I've always been in love with binders. So like those sevens, like listen, I have no problem putting that thing in a binder or a mag or like not even giving a shit afterwards, or keeping it as a 7. I have plenty of, I can count like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have like a 1.5. Like I have all these random ass grades, and I mean some of the stuff isn't even that old.
a lot of it is, correctable. Like, I mean, I can't tell you the amount of cards I've seen with boogers on them, blood stains, fingerprints.
Bloodstains.
Yeah, dude, there was like this Kobe gold that was a 5, like blood stain on the back. We got it off, resubmitted, got a 9
How you get a bloodstain off, bro?
with Mr. Minty cleaning spray. Available now.
That wasn't even trying for the plug there. That was great. That was awesome. That's wild. Bloodstain. What's the craziest thing you've seen on a card that you've had to like remove?
100% without a fraction of a doubt. At the San Diego Del Mar show. This was 2002, early 2002, maybe 2021 or 2021 or 2022. It was a Mac Jones Immaculate Shield 1 of 1.
Okay.
And then at this time, Mac Jones was the hottest guy.
Huge. Yeah.
Card was 15K, 20K when it came to me. Massive booger on the side edge. This is like a thick card, like 10 MMs, 15 MMs, massive booger on the side of it. No doubt in my mind, the breaker was super jealous, just put a big ass booger on like and sent it to the client, dude.
You think so?
No doubt in my mind. And this kid, and the kid who brought it to me, he was like, yeah, like, can you clean it up? I'm like, did you see this? It's like, no.
He didn't know what it was? You tell him?
He never looked at it. He got the card from the breaker, and then it was sealed in the one touch in the bag, and then
So he wanted you to clean it up for grading without him actually ever taking it out.
It went from the breaker to him, and he never opened it up from the breaker, and came right to me.
Did you burst his bubble and tell him there's a massive booger on it?
Oh, totally told him that.
Yeah.
It was a good laugh. That's why I wear gloves now.
Did you get it off though?
What? Well, of course we did.
I don't know, man. I don't know what kind of what's going on with the booger, you know? I mean, it seems like you can get a lot of stuff off. That's awesome.
We got some nice tools right here, some brushes to get it off, and that's the real reason why I wear gloves.
I mean, honestly, after that, I don't blame you, bro.
Yeah, totally.
That's wild. Steve, brother,
Well, I mean, like these cards are like dollar bills. They get passed around a ton. And I've seen the same card, same cert, same serial number, come to my booth like 2 or 3 times at a show before.
really?
Yeah, because you got these flippers. They come around. They're all looking for the same guys. They get it from this guy, and then it gets moved to that guy, and then back to that guy, and like, hey, can you take a look at this? And just a cycle of the
That's
hobby.
wild. No, I mean, no wonder you want to be part of the action. That makes most sense.
That's it's a lot of fun, and just like it's the best way for me to help collectors if I'm in the thick of things. And now with like repacks, like repack buyers being there, it's if a buyer or a flipper, they just want to know if it's going to gem. If it's not going to gem, they're going to move it to the repacker.
Yeah. There is its own little ecosystem, right? Like it all kind of, I mean, I've talked about this many times. I don't know why it didn't come out in English, but I've talked about this many times. Like everything kind of feeds into itself, and because it is like for the most part like a free market, like I mean, people just spend the money where they want to spend it, right? Like no one's telling you what to do or what to buy, and if they are, you can easily pivot off of that. Like I don't know.
Yeah, it's definitely a free market, and like there's new like wholesale channels that have opened up with it. There's new side hustle channels that have opened up with it. There's kids that come from New York that fly to the Dallas show. They'll come with 10K and they'll flip around cards and leave with 15K, and they're happy campers.
Yeah, it is quite a wild ecosystem, man.
Really cool.
Yeah. Steve, I want to thank you so much for jumping on the podcast today. Before you take off, I want you to let everybody know where they can find you, whether they want to contact you, whether maybe they have an inquiry about something to sell you, maybe they want to submit with you. Maybe they want you to just take a look at their stuff. Maybe they want to purchase your services or your supplies. Where can they contact you? Where can they go? How can they speak to you?
Sure, sure. Yeah, all right. So MrMinty.com is your place for the hobby's #1 free grade prep kit. Everything that you need to examine your collection and prep it for grading to help you get nines and tens and identify the mintiest cards in your collection. You can follow me on all the socials, Mr. Minty_supply. Yeah, and I offer, if you can't catch me at a show, I do many of the big shows across the country, the National, Burbank, Dallas, Culture Collision, the Toronto Sports Card Expo. But if you don't catch me there, I offer mail-in submissions. You can email me, Mr. Minty at mrminty.com. We can start a conversation there. But yeah, I also offer submissions to PSA and Beckett.
I mean, you walk it right to PSA.
Walk it right to PSA.
There you go. Team, I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Cardboard Coach featuring none other than Mr. Minty himself. I want you to have a wonderful rest of your day. Thanks again, Steve, for joining. And team, I hope you have take care, everybody.